Talk to me about finding deals or finding parcels to develop. I mean, are you driving, target markets? Or are you driving them on Google Maps physically? You have agents that are sourcing opportunities for you, doing mailers. Give us a sense of how you're finding deals and, opportunities to evaluate.
Yeah, and it sort of goes in and out. Like I'll go like 2 weeks with looking at property, and then once we finally get a property under contract, it sort of goes into like the due diligence where we stop looking for property. But yeah, mainly I'm licensed here, but I also work with an agent that she's a phenomenal negotiator. So I'm more than happy to pay her commission just to have her on my team. So she'll bring me deals. I mean, I have access to her the MLS too, so we're constantly looking at deals. Zoning is big for the bigger projects that we're doing right now, and that's going to be different in every market. But making sure that the county allows for the amount of units that we want to put on the acreage. And I've said this time and time again, the most important thing to think about is access to the property. So the property might look cool when you're looking at it on your satellite images, when you're looking at it on Google Maps, but it either, if you don't live in the market, you want an agent or someone to drive out there to go look at the property. But like we're mainly investing in anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes of where I live. So the next step is to drive out there, because the big, like I said, the biggest thing to think about is the drive that you're taking up to the property is the drive that your guest is going to be taking up to the property. And we've been in Airbnbs before, and I've heard it from friends, like they'll drive 20, 30 minutes down like a gravel road just to get to the property. And one, that's not safe, but two, you don't want your guests annoyed like the second they stepped into your property. So like a
Not
lot
at
of
all.
times our yeah, like a lot of times our guests are, since we're developing in more rural areas, our guests are arriving a lot of times at night. And they're in a new area, and they don't you don't want them to be driving down like a weird squiggly road for 20 to 30 minutes, even if it's like a mile. So that's the biggest thing, is we look for properties that are off of a double lane state maintained road. And then we can put in our own infrastructure. So that's step one. Step two is just sending the property over to our engineers and figuring out how many units we can actually put on the property, because that's super important. And that's sort of, we have a general idea of, just like you said earlier, about like when you first start in development, you don't know what you don't know. So, and
Hmm.
I feel like that holds true in multifamily and other real estate. And but now it's like we have a general idea of what we want to pay for the property. Once we get it under contract, send it to our engineers, and they're like, hey, you wanted to put 40 on here, you can only put 20. And you're like,
Hmm.
okay, we can only put 20, that we go back to renegotiate on the property,
And
because
then you're
it's like,
putting together your pro forma, your projections to say, all
right,
right, well, if we can do 20, here's what that might look like. Here's what the revenue might look like,
right,
and
right,
so
right.
forth. And then you back into your value in that capacity, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we look at properties that already have some sort of cash, like they were already short-term rentals, but it's like the money's in the land. So like the property might be worth like 300,000 $300,000, but it's listed for 1.1 million because it has like 50 acres attached to it. So it's like a lot of times we'll see if that property is, even maybe it has a 60% up 65% occupancy rate, and we're usually closer to like 90%. So we're like, okay, maybe once we bring this to our investors, we can show them, hey, like this is practically a value add. This is what we do with this property, and it'll be throwing off some cash flow during the development phase. So that's another strategy.